Alright, we are back. So, I was thinking that it's probably about time that I start trying to build out some infrastructure. Hopefully some decently long-lasting infrastructure. Now, the first thing I was hoping to do was unlock a few more things from the awesome shop. So let's take a look. Got 14 tickets available. Let's go ahead and print those out. And I want to say that I have one more stashed away. Yes, alright. So let's take a look. I think that I have gotten essentially all of the, actually practical things that I really wanted to get. I mean, that's not entirely true. Unlocking all the foundations would certainly be useful. But for now, I was thinking instead of actually unlocking some customizer options. So coated concrete requires plastic, but I think is one of the best looking items in the game, or ways that you can have your foundation set up. I also hadn't really scrolled down far enough to realize that there were separate options here for walls and roofs and so on. Glass roof would be nice, but is expensive. Let's see, we're up to 9. Okay, well, I think that'll have to do.
All fixed-vetted materials are tested for toxins, hallucinogens, and other biologically adverse effects. Pioneers are advised not to immerse themselves in these materials, and not to lick, eat, breathe in, or otherwise consume them.
Take that under advisement. Alright, so this, I was experimenting with trying to set up some pillars to sort of build our first train lines off of. And I was experimenting with the chrome finish on them, but I didn't really like the way it looked with the base concrete. It just kind of looks like painted concrete, so I was hoping that if I change it to coated concrete first, which, yeah, does require plastic, and then apply that chrome finish. Yeah, I think that looks significantly better. Looks like actual metal. Okay. Hopefully that's good. And my assumption is that I can build... It would be under transport, wouldn't it? That I can build rails on top of this without trouble. It seems like that is the case. Complains about clearance overlap, but not that it's too steep, so that's good. Is this the angle we want, though, or do we want to stick with a shallower angle, just because it'll look better? So yeah, my plan for these is just some real simple pillars that I'm gonna blueprint out and try to place around. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so at least in theory, I should now be able to do something like this, and then I'll change to blueprint mode and have it snap on. And then pop one under like that. And unfortunately have to apply the chrome finish as well. Yeah, I'm hoping this will give me a way to cleanly set up a whole bunch of these. And my goal is to route some fuel all the way from our oil outpost. Let's go take a look. Yeah, and most of this is going into the awesome sink at this point. It's probably why I've had a fair few tickets showing up. Okay. Well, we should have some pretty massive reserves, so that is fine by me. And this is the benefit of sort of setting up factories like this, is that, you know, with these smart splitters, is that as soon as your dimensional depot and your storage containers are full, the factory just keeps operating, but this time it's making you coupons instead. So yeah, nice. Okay, let's decide where we'd want to build a train station. Alright. So yeah, this seems like a good spot for a train depot. Something like that. But I'm thinking for now, I guess I don't know if this is possible, but my thinking is to just build a, basically a bi-directional train line. Oh god, motors, my bad. But where it's a single train line that the train goes back and forth on over and over, rather than bothering to build out like a multi-lane, you know, like one lane going in a specific direction, another going the opposite direction. My thinking is to have a single bi-directional line, at least to start. Okay. So now, I go to blueprints, and I say, want a ramp pillar. Can I snap this to the world grid? No, okay. That's fine, though, I think. Alright, just cutting in during the edit here. So my first idea was to build this train line with a series of disconnected pillar blueprints that I was working on before. So basically just to run the train line up and across each pillar and then have it sort of float in the air between those pillars. And that didn't really end up working out. I'm sure that I could get it to work with a bit more patience, but I was having all kinds of alignment issues with the pillars, and I just thought it ended up looking really weird. So I eventually decided to take a completely different approach with some new blueprints. So just gonna go ahead and cut ahead to that. Alright, well, it's been a short bit. I was just looking out over a lot of my factory area over here, and hopefully some areas I'll expand into. But what I've been working on is this. So, since last time, I sort of changed my mind on the setup and decided that things might just be a lot simpler if I just made one continuously enclosed and supported rail line. So I ended up making some new blueprints under here and some little helper ones to hopefully help me use them. And I've just been building not like that, building a continuous track that goes all the way from back there. So my thinking in doing this was that it would help with alignment issues, because I was building just completely separated pillars before. I was having to spend a lot of time going back and checking alignment and moving a pillar and guessing where to put the next one and that sort of thing, and it would turn out that it didn't quite make turns correctly. These blueprints that I've set up, they only make 90-degree turns, right or left, which is more limiting, certainly, but first of all, I'm thinking that it will help me stay on the world grid. So just to sort of briefly go about how I designed these, I think I first started experimenting with just making matched sets of touching foundations that could achieve a 90-degree turn. So I think that this is sort of what I ended up settling on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was one more set. No, that looks correct. I guess let's just build that really quick and then compare to my actual turn to make sure I'm not misleading you here. So I think I ended up making the actual turn bigger, so that it was like sort of consistently sized with the sizes of these blueprints, which are 4 long. But the principle is the same, that basically I took a set of foundations like this. I guess let's actually make it match. And then I found where it overlapped, and I just took some foundations and turned them sideways, and then zooped them across to give it a more consistently supported look. Let's build off of here. So something like that was the base form of the blueprint. And then I spent way longer than I'd care to admit trying to get it looking just how I wanted to. So let's go ahead and put down an example of this. Oop, not you. I'm gonna copy this and then use E to cycle through other blueprints in that category. So I made this sort of turn helper, which is the proper dimensions such that I can then take a turn in blueprint mode and point it at that turn helper blueprint that I just made, and it'll snap on properly to this track over here. So yeah, this is what the actual blueprint ended up looking like. I really liked the look of this sort of like chrome and then factory color and then chrome stripe along the side. So this is just made up of 1 meter walls that I just put 3 of them along all the sides of all the blueprints like this. These gaps here I tried out filling with small concrete pillars on their sides and spent a lot of time on that. But in the end, it ended up having so many like flickering Z-fighting issues where it would flicker back and forth between the textures of the foundations and the textures of the support pillars that I just kind of gave up on that. And this, I can't even really tell you how I got this. It was just a mess of, like, creating some sort of jointing on the side of this and then redoing it, I think, like 4 or more times. And looking at it now, it is consistent. But yeah, I think that I ended up, like, getting these ones in the center placed, actually, along the side of this foundation, and then I took some beams and connected between the two, and then used the beams as a base to place a 1 meter wall on, and then just nudged it, like, inside the beam that was running between here, and then zooped down from that. I think that's what I ended up doing. But yeah, it was just kind of, I don't want to talk about how long I spent on that, like I redid it so many times, but this is what I eventually settled on and called it good enough. And again, it's got some vertical gaps here, but like this one, I just didn't really care to spend hours trying to get some way to fill that in a way that I liked, and I don't really even think that having the gaps looks bad. I think it's kind of visually interesting, if anything. So that's what I left it as, and as you can see, I've gone a long ways already. So our oil fields are all the way up there, so the line starts right around here, and I ramped up and then went all the way down to some of these islands, at which point I cut to the right, or to the east, I guess I should say, and then I cut again once I reached the shore, headed south, and I've just continued that way to here. So yeah, building with these has been far, far, far easier. So, I mean, actually getting them in place is a bit of a struggle once you start using ramps and turns, but especially when you're doing a long straight section like that, it is so easy to just plop them down one after another. I think that, oh boy, it's been so long since I did a turn that I'm having trouble remembering. I think I actually just take a straight switch to default mode. Yeah, and then point right here to get a start on the straight track. Make sure that's all lined up, it looks perfect. And then, once you've got it started, then you switch to blueprint mode. And now I can just place them back to back and form a straight section very, very, very easily. And yeah, again, the dimensional storage has been pretty invaluable for this. I was having some issues with concrete and iron plates because I was going through them so rapidly, and because my current dimensional depot uploaders will only upload at a rate of around 30 per minute, that just wasn't keeping up with the rate I was using them at. So I think maybe I will go ahead. I was debating for a long time whether to try to, like, punch through here and maybe ramp up a little bit and get sort of deeper into this area for where I place the actual fuel depot, or if I would just build it on the water here. I kind of want to run it deeper in, though I think, looking at this now, I think I'm maybe a little bit off of where I want to be, so let me just redo a lot of this. At least blueprints make deleting a lot easier, too. Okay, well, let's go back slightly, maybe around where we meet the shore is where we can start ramping up. So let's get rid of this one. And then should use this up ramp helper. Basically, it's just a set of 1 meter foundations that I stick underneath. And that should allow the ramp. Let's land here. That should allow the ramp, when I point at that ramp helper, to snap exactly onto the straight there. Now, ironically, building a ramp off of this one is even more awkward than building just off of the straight there. The way that I found to do it is to just steal a foundation from back there, plop it around there, at least I think. Copy the ramp, switch to default mode, and then just point at around the middle of that 2 meter foundation. So yeah, these blueprints are not perfect. I think I should have figured out more like little helper blueprints to get the alignment exact, and yeah, I will have to take out at least a handful of these trees. But they work well enough to still save me quite a bit of time, at least I think. Alright, well, I am going to continue building this out, and I'm also going to go back and put periodic supports under this whole line here. So I will probably do a little bit more of this off camera and check back in soon. Alright, well here I am looking at our little oil outpost. Since the last time I recorded, I have expanded off of this to attach all of these oil products to that train line that I've been working on. So we got plastic and rubber flowing in there, and then fuel flowing up this way. Now, as for the train station itself, it's still pretty incomplete. Lots of floating platforms. Mostly just wanted to route out where resources were going to go, and then down into these platforms here. Yeah, in terms of fuel, it's being produced very, very slowly. Honestly, all of these resources are. It's, just a small little outpost, but it's slowly filling up, and it's definitely something we can expand on later. And I think the way that this train is going to be constructed will be a locomotive, and then 2 of these freight cars. I'm assuming those are all linking together. And then another locomotive facing the opposite direction. And I'm hoping, certainly my impression from looking at the wiki briefly, is that this should allow us to have this one train just run back and forth along this line. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Start moving. Boy, I love the way that these trains look with those little electric motors, I assume, that are just burning away down there, throwing off sparks. Yeah, got the other locomotive back there, and then 2 freight cars. I assume that one freight car can act for both solid and liquid ingredients. I assume it depends on the freight platform that you stop at, not the car itself. But I guess we'll see. And yeah, this is about where the line was previously. And as you can see, I've extended up this way and put in some supports as well. the way up this ramp, over the ground here. And my plan... Boy. Well, good thing it stops just fine. The plan is to build in some sort of simple fuel depot setup right around here. I think we got a good access path over here for trucks to come in, and then maybe could build like a ramp over on this side to sort of smooth things out and have trucks come up that way. I also think that like right around here, maybe even right there, is where I first landed here. So an interesting spot to be building off of. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet what form this will take. It's going to depend a lot on building around terrain and, you know, big things like this. Granted, I could just put a bunch of foundations up really high and functionally ignore these rocks underneath. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I wonder if I could do some multi-tiered thing instead, where I have one station, maybe just one, down low to the ground. Which, I don't know, maybe that one would just be a refueling station that trucks could stop at to refuel, but it wouldn't actually load them with any cargo. And then maybe the two up top would be plastic and rubber instead. I think I like that idea. It's at least a little more interesting than just having all the trucks in a line here going to one of 3 stations. So what about where I want the actual trucks to go? Because I feel like I should figure that out before I start routing packaged fuel to everything. It was occurring to me that I probably want to have like a dedicated entry and exit point for each truck. So like this level is simple, I just choose a direction, and trucks that are refueling should always come from that direction and exit through the other direction. That's pretty straightforward. Hello. But for up here, it might get a little more complicated if I want, like, I suppose I could just do a ramp up and then a ramp back down on the same side. It'd be nice if the trucks could, like, switch sides, though, or, you know, if they wanted to. If I wanted to pick up plastic and then drive over this way. Same for fuel, for that matter. Okay. Well, yeah, I think I'll have to ponder this for a bit and try some different layouts, probably, of these stations and paths leading up to them and see what I like best. I'm probably not going to stress too much about it, you know, don't want to worry too much about how it looks compared to making sure it works, but it would be nice if it didn't look horrible. Guess we'll see. Alright. So, as you can see, I've done a fair bit of cosmetic and reorganization work on this fuel depot area. So I ended up going with 2 stations on top, 2 on bottom, because it was just feeling too complicated. Oh, here he comes. Oh no. Too complicated to try to route 3 routes for trucks all the way up to the top, which I think was my original plan. I mean, if you take a look at them, these trucks are fairly large and have a decently large turning radius, so I didn't want to try to force it. See, I've got this pretty extensive ramp set up to take them up to the top here, and then either go to this station or this station. And then on the other side, these ramps are not yet complete. I am figuring I'll merge both the top and the bottom and just kind of go out that way. It is a little bit awkward because the terrain here is just so hilly. But, you know, the trucks can drive over that just fine, and I'm figuring I might as well just not worry about it. I could take the trucks all the way down there instead. Maybe I will experiment with that, just to try to make it a bit cleaner. Okay, let's get rid of a lot of this. Okay, that's as good as I could hope for, I think. And I'll add in some supports under these sections. Try to make them look a little less out of place. And hopefully that works out fine. So now, as for actually getting this into an operational state, boy, I think I'm going to have to add some lights in here at some point too. But my plan was to make the top 2 stations for plastic and rubber, respectively. So I think... Let's see, I think that the order of these is fuel, plastic, rubber. So I think I might as well make this the rubber station, because I'm having to route plastic underneath to use for packaging the fuel up, and as you can see, the fuel is going underneath as well. So I think... let's see, I'm only feeding with a Mark I belt at the other end, so I think this should be fine. Yeah, gonna be way too long, of course. But let's just take you somewhere like there, and then... wait, maybe I pulled from the wrong section on this end. I would definitely want the output. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Alright, going in. So that should feed rubber into that station. Boy, you really get around. Okay. And then let's go below and take a look at our fuel packaging situation. So we should be getting plastic out of here, feeding into these machines, which should be making canisters, 60 per minute each, so 120 total. And then we should have 3 fuel packagers. each requiring 40 per minute, so 3 times 40 should be 120. And then fuel coming in at 40 per minute. And then, again, 3 times 40, 120, so at least this Mark I pipe shouldn't be any issue. And that's coming straight in from there. Maybe I'll work a bit backwards on this. So I'm going to need to split into you. Okay, and then can pull this off of that, something like that. That'll work well enough. Okay, so that's our rubber station with fuel, our plastic station with fuel and plastic, and yeah, the rubber station is being handled from up top. And then our fuel refuel only station for the trucks. And then our fuel transport station over here. And yeah, I am going to have to beef up production on a lot of these things. I'm hoping that demand for packaged fuel will be relatively low. You know, trucks will only be taking what they consume from each round trip. At least, once everything averages out. And then I'm not even sure if I'll be using this station at first. I just figured I might as well set it up with that in mind. So I'm hoping that at least this number of packagers should work out fine. I suspect they'll be limited by the total fuel production at the back end, but again, I need to go and expand that at some point. And I'll beef up belts when and if that happens. I did want to look... Oh, yeah, I do have a hard drive scan complete. Coke steel ingot, interesting. So I could be using petroleum coke for that. Oh, encased industrial pipe. That's an interesting one, that you can make beams out of steel pipe instead. Would like to get... I was really hoping to get the recipes that would let me sort of use steel instead of iron, so I could just focus on steel production. But maybe that's kind of a fool's errand. Maybe I could take something like this to make steel pipes entirely out of iron. And then something like this to turn steel pipes into encased industrial beams. That would at least be interesting. Let's go ahead and do that. An iron pipe. So that could be really interesting, because now I can turn areas like my current steel production, which is sitting down here, where there's iron nodes and a limestone node, and I could turn that entirely into steel pipe production and encased industrial beam production at the same time, which is really interesting. And then something like this, where I've got a coal node and iron, could be turned entirely into steel beams. At least worth thinking about. But what I actually came over here to look at was this. I know that there's a power augmenter, and then a production amplification. I might want to go ahead and unlock these here pretty soon. Again, I haven't set up chains for building circuit boards or SAM fluctuators, so it'll be yet another round of handcrafting, but 50 and 100 isn't the end of the world just to get this unlock out of the way. Well, let me not get too distracted by that. I'll return and do that here in just a bit. Okay. So I believe that I'm now in a position where, should this train run and do its pickup, everything should function. Okay, so how do I do this? Let's open up the train menu. I have never interacted with this before. Okay, so we have manual driving, edit timetable. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to rename these stations for sure. So let's add a stop here. It's got settings. One load, unload has been completed, or wait 15 seconds. Sure. Okay, or you can wait till it's fully loaded. Oh, and you can say, oh, that's interesting. So I could load a variety of ingredients into a train station and then tell it to only load or unload specific things. Or rather, I could have like a single station with multiple freight loaders or unloaders, and only have it take certain, load or unload from certain carriages. Okay, well, for now, I think we just want it to pick up everything, so I assume that's the default. And here we want it to unload everything. So that should be fine. Hey, okay, just got an achievement for setting up a train schedule for the first time. Nice. Let me double check that these are set to unload. I think I went through and set all of them to unload at some point, but one of them could have snuck through. Okay. Seems to be good. Well, let's get in here and turn on self-driving. Okay. Oh, and I see that back train's light has turned red. Probably indicating that it's inactive because we're being pulled by this locomotive instead. This is very exciting. I have never previously set up a train line in Satisfactory. Just felt a little daunted by it, so I'm excited to have this thing actually running. It hasn't complained yet, so I'm assuming this is functional. Yeah, we should have all of our ingredients ready to go on this end. boy, I hope I got the order right. Cool, it's actually doing braking at the appropriate distance. I do love all the animations on these trains. Oh, cool, yeah. Oh, wow, I love seeing it do this loading of the train. It does a little honk when it starts moving again. So have you turned red now? You have. Okay. And now the unload. Let's hop out. Interesting. Is the fluid animation a little faster? That's a bit funny. And there it goes back again. Okay, so this should be plastic, yes. Should be rubber. That's all flowing out. And we should be getting fuel flowing down under there. Plastic going into our packaging setup. Beautiful. Starting up. That should be Mark II, that should be Mark II, so it should be getting fed just fast enough to keep that going optimally, even though it's feeding the plastic station as well. And each of these should start up in just a moment. Excellent. Packaged fuels heading out. Plastic is going into the station over there. Fuel's heading out to all of the many, many places it has to go. Alright, I think that's looking really, really good. And our train should be heading back this way in just a moment, bringing the next load in. That is so cool. Oh, here's a bean. Just had to be a part of this. Don't wander onto the train tracks, bud. Very, very cool. I am excited to set up more train lines in the future. I'm going to have to do a lot of work on blueprinting, though, to set up things like junctions, rather than just having a single line with a single train on it. I'm going to have to do some figuring out of how to set up a proper train network. Oh, that was very fast. Okay, I wondered how this worked, because the station couldn't empty the materials. Some of it does still sit on the train. That makes sense. Because, yeah, plastic and, well, yeah, fuel was still quite full. Maybe plastic was empty enough, actually, for it to take a full load, but rubber definitely was not. I could speed you up, but... Gosh, why... I'm a little confused there, but everything seems to be working. You're outputting onto the belt. All right. Well, cool. I think I'm probably gonna take a little break here. Maybe I'll also go do the handcrafting for unlocking that MAM research I was just looking at. And I'll be back on very soon. That's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.